Hello and welcome to Alex's Model Kits. Long time no vid, eh? So I thought I'd do a video just to kind of do a bit of a catch up from the last video I did, which was around about, I think, May last year, May 2020, and it's now April 2021, so almost a year has passed since I've done anything, and I thought I probably should do an update about a couple of things, really just kind of following on from that last video. So if anyone's watched that, then you'll know I was talking about the Blenheim, the Airfix 148 scale Blenheim Mark 1F, and also talking about an issue with my health, which I'll talk about again in a short while. But we'll talk about the Blenheim first. Let's just see if I can pick this up here. Okay, so here we are. This is the Blenheim, and for those of you who watched the last video back in 2020, you probably will recognise, crumbs, I can see the dust, you'll probably recognise that really nothing has changed on this kit since the last video. In fact, possibly this is the first time I've picked it up since making the last video. So yeah, nothing has changed there, and the reason for that kind of leads me on to the second update, really, which is a health related thing. I think when I spoke last time round, I was talking about the fact that my left hand had swollen slightly and was becoming quite sore and quite weak, and things developed to the point where I was re-diagnosed with an illness I've had before, which is rheumatoid arthritis. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, essentially what's happening is that my immune system goes a bit gung-ho and decides that the soft tissue in my joints is a foreign object, and therefore it needs to be destroyed, and it then gets cracking at destroying. My own immune system has destroyed my own joints, and I got this originally back in 2012, and you know, it was fairly difficult, fairly unpleasant. I was bedbound for about 3 months. It took a while to kind of get the right medication. The NHS did a fantastic job, as always, and they found the medication that works for me and put me on that, and things improved. And so I think by let me think, about 2017 maybe, I think at that point I became kind of classified as long-term remission. It had gone, there were no signs of any illness or any problems, and it had been gone for quite some time, and so it was considered long-term remission was there, and at one point it seemed like it might never come back again. But for whatever reason, around about the end of 2019, I started feeling a bit funny, and I didn't really want to believe it was RA. I kind of hoped it was something else. And yeah, I mean, 2020 it got diagnosed as the RA is back again. Obviously, with COVID going on, with the pandemic that's going on, the NHS had to kind of really focus on other things, and that meant that I had to basically just be patient and wait for treatment to start again. And that started around about November last year. So that's good, and I'm much better than I was. I'm not going to bore you with how bad things were back in November last year, but you know, things have improved markedly. The downside to that is that in that period there has been, I think, permanent damage to various joints. My left hand is still not great, if I'm honest. My right hand was also affected quite badly at one point, but that's now made I wouldn't say a full recovery. It still feels quite tender and painful around the knuckles, but yeah, it's working. The dexterity is there, the strength is generally there, and that's fine. But my left hand is less so. So you make a fist. That is it for me. Oh, although you can see that is progress. I couldn't do that before. So So the problem is that with no dexterity and not much strength in this hand, I'm not really up to model making at the moment still. The interest is still there. I still want to do this, but physically I'm not really able to do it. So I'll just have to be patient. I'm getting treatment. I have a regular injection every week, which is making a difference. It's just taking a little while, and I just have to be patient and wait for that to improve some more. You know, I consider myself to be lucky, if I'm honest. I've met someone who got this illness in the 80s, and the best they could offer her was aspirin, and she lost her job. She couldn't work. She was housebound for decades. So, you know, I've got no complaints. The medication is there. There have been massive advances in treating this, and I have to say, you know, compared to a lot of people, I'm very fortunate. So, so that essentially is the update on things. It also accounts for the the elephant in the room, which is the wild hare. I'm kind of aware I look sort of a bit of a cross between Gandalf the Good and the wild man of Borneo, I guess. But because it's been an immune system issue, I've had to self-isolate, and it got diagnosed around about the time, I think June of last year, just as the first lockdown was finishing. So my last haircut was March of last year, and this is what a year's growth of hair is for me. So it is a bit mental, but I'm hoping at some point in the future we'll be able to go out and someone can take a strimmer to it and lop off large chunks of hair, which would be good. So there's been no real model making to speak of. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this kit when I am actually able to get back into model making. If I'm perfectly honest, I take the view of one kit at a time. So I don't like to start something unless I've finished the kit I'm working on, because I know full well what would happen would be I'll end up with dozens of half-made kits, and I don't want to do that. So my natural tendency is to say, well, when I'm fit again, I'll come back to this kit and I'll carry on with it. But it was giving me trouble before the illness started. It was fighting me a lot, and I was starting to get a bit discouraged about it. So do I really want to come back, you know, after a long period away, come back to a kit which is already just being a pain in the neck? My self-discipline says, yes, this is a kit I've started and therefore I should carry on with it. But there's also a little part of my mind saying, life is too short for some of this nonsense, and just go and do something else. So I will wait and see. I'll think about that. I have made not a model kit. It may not be. It depends on your point of view about what a model kit is. But the one thing I have made whilst I've been ill is this here, which is, there we go. Now this is a Lego kit. So whether you consider that a model kit or not, I think I kind of do, if I'm honest. It comes in parts. It has instructions. You put it together yourself. Granted, you know, you're not sanding, you're not painting, you're not doing various bits and pieces, but you do make it yourself. This is actually pretty good. This actually comes apart, he says. There we go, it comes apart as it would do in the real thing. So I don't know, I might make a separate video about that and talk about it. I did consider it, although I just kind of thought maybe it'd be a bit confusing, because you do get sort of YouTube channels which are sort of dedicated to Lego alone. Maybe I don't know, maybe a Lego kit on a model making kind of Airfix, Tamiya, styrene kit sort of channel might be a bit weird. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. Actually, if you think I should do video on it, then I'd definitely be interested in hearing your thoughts. So so that is essentially that is the update at the moment. That's where I am. I'm still not making models. I'm still waiting to get better, but you know, it's an improvement. It's certainly an improvement compared to how it was towards the end of last year. I mean, 6 months ago, things were not good. So so I've got no real complaints. So that's pretty much it. Kind of seems like whilst you're here, it seems a bit sort of self-centered to just talk about me and nothing else. I can't talk about model kits, so what I thought I might do is maybe talk about 5 other YouTube channels that I've seen over the time, and some you might know, some you might not, and it might help you to see a new channel that you haven't seen before. So I've picked 5. There are so many YouTube channels out there. Frankly, if I listed all of the channels that really impressed me, this video would be, you know, probably a weekend's worth of video. So I have had to kind of, you know, I'm going to just pick 5, and I'm going to go with 5 which have, you know, had a sort of an impact for various reasons on my YouTube interest and my model making interest. So the first channel I'm going to talk about is probably one that most people actually probably have never heard of, and that is a channel called DMS Vid. He was the very first YouTube channel I ever watched. In fact, I think his video was the first YouTube video I'd ever watched, and I think this is probably back in 2011, maybe 2010. Airfix had just released, or they released the previous year, they released the 124 scale de Havilland Mosquito, which is one of my favourite aircraft. And I made 124 scale kits when I was a child, and I quite enjoyed them. And I really, as soon as I heard about this 124 scale Mosquito, and I wasn't making models at that point, I was kind of waiting. I knew I was coming back to the hobby at some point, but I hadn't quite got to that point where I was ready to go to it. And so I heard about this de Havilland Mosquito, and absolutely knew I have to get one. And I do have one. I have one on the cupboard up behind me somewhere. And I think it had come out for about a year, and I was interested in seeing if people had made their kits and what they'd done with it. And so I was doing sort of Google searches for Airfix Mosquito and 124 scale Mosquito and whatever else, and saw a few good kits out there, and just happened to see this YouTube clip, or this link to a YouTube clip, which wasn't for the Airfix model. It's actually for I think it's for the Tamiya 148 scale, but it looks interesting anyway, so I clicked on that, and what the guy had done was just extraordinary. A lot of people motorize their kits, and they put lights in the kits, and they put motors into the engines to turn the props, and that's nothing particularly new. But the problem with that is that when the motor's off, the prop is still. Now I'm going to try and clip my fingers in a minute, so this may or may not work. When the motor is off, the props are still, and then you flick a switch, apply power to the motor, and it's gone like that from, I clip my fingers, from standstill to fully spinning in just that fraction of a second. And that's not realistic. If you watch an aircraft starting up, then you'll see that, you know, with old-fashioned propeller aircrafts from the Second World War, you've got a starter motor inside the engine somewhere that spins up. It tries to spin up the engine, and you'll watch the prop move, and sometimes the engine compression will stop it too much, or whatever else, and you'll see the prop gradually spin and then kick into life and really rev up after that. And what this chap had done on DMS Vid was he'd used an Arduino board to model that behavior. So not only was the model, and his models are exceptionally good, not only was the model really good, but he had used the Arduino board to control the motors in the engines, to fire them up and to spin, to turn very slowly as the engine's being turned over, and then kick it into life and go from there. So it just kind of really inspired me. It made me sit back and go, things have changed since I was making kits, you know, as a child. But it also really inspired me to think that that is a brilliant way of doing things, and I really want to do that at some point in the future. And I have an Arduino board somewhere. I did start experimenting with it, but I haven't really got terribly far into it, so I will learn more about it. But my goal at some point in the future will be to do what he did. So I will try and put a link to his mosquito video, because it's a brilliant video. It's about 4 minutes, and he's got hanger lights being switched on and off, and the engines and cockpit lighting and whatever else. He really has gone to town. And what I suggest, if you want to watch that video, go ahead and watch it. And I'd also suggest actually just go to his channel and just look at all the videos, because he's done very similar things on pretty much all his videos. He's done some really interesting stuff. The one that stands out is that he's got a Spitfire, and he's obviously hollowed out each of the exhaust stubs and placed an LED in there. And as the engine turns, and as you can see the prop slowly turning because the engine's gradually kind of just turning and firing, and he's got LEDs from each of the exhaust stubs just flashing an orange as a bit of like spent fuel comes out of the exhaust stub, and then it spins into life. And I'm fairly sure that as the engine runs, it's only a 12-second video, but as the engine runs up and warms up, and the mixture becomes more lean, I think, the colour of the exhaust goes from orange to blue. Really clever stuff. He's really got some great ideas. The only downside and sad thing is that I think pretty much as soon as I found his channel, he had stopped making videos. So I don't think he's made a video in about 10 years. But what is there is brilliant, and I'd recommend watching it. So the second channel I'd recommend really comes from the first one. I'd watched that mosquito video and was really impressed with that. And then, you know how YouTube has these kind of suggested videos on the side. There were various suggestions for models and things. A lot of them didn't look terribly inspiring, but one really stood out just in the thumbnail, just stood out as being, that looks really interesting. And that was of a Spitfire. I clicked on that, I watched that, and it was an exceptionally good video about an exceptionally good model. And this channel is a channel that probably a lot of people have probably already heard of, and that channel is making models again. The last time I saw that channel, I think it has about 10,000 people subscribed to it, and it's run by a chap called Gary, who I've spoken with occasionally on Facebook from time to time. He's a really nice chap. He's decided, I think, in the last few years that he's going to step away from video making, but he is an exceptionally gifted model maker, and he is an exceptionally gifted video maker. And he had, when I first started watching his channel, he had a great format of some very good photographs of his kit, accompanied with some very good music, generally speaking. And then he would have captions appear to kind of explain what's going on with each of the photographs. It was a great format, it worked really well. And he then changed that to become kind of a talk in front of the camera. And he's a very, very natural person in front of the camera. He does an exceptionally good job of just chatting and explaining what he's doing, and it's just a video, you just enjoy watching the videos. So if there is anyone who has somehow found my video but never actually found Making Models Again, then yeah, make a point of going and finding Making Models Again and watching that, because it's an exceptionally good channel, and he does a great job both with the model kits and with his videos. So the third video I wanted to talk about, or the video channel, is a channel called Frankie Day, I think, which is just basically named after the chap who runs that channel. And I think I mentioned Frankie Day before during a video about the Saturn V rocket that I was doing, And I've watched Frankie's videos for a while. I kind of consider him, I think I mentioned before, I kind of consider him to be almost kind of royal family of model making, because I think he's just been doing it for such a long time. I get the impression he was making models as a child. I think he either joined the US Navy or he joined the Merchant Navy, but I get the impression again that he continued to make models while serving on board ships, and has never really stopped. He's just been making models all his life, and not only has he been making models for such a long time, but he doesn't limit himself to styrene kits. He'll do anything. He'll do balsa wood models, or he'll do cardboard models. Essentially, if it comes in parts and has an instruction book, then it seems that he's pretty much up for doing it. And he always does such a great job with these kits as well. So he's a really interesting chap to watch, and to see him at work and to see what he's doing. I think he lives in the US. I've never actually spoken with him, but I think he lives in the US. I think Ohio somewhere. And yeah, you know, a great model maker. Lots and lots of videos, always really interesting, and someone, you know, you feel you can just watch and enjoy. So I would always recommend, if you get a chance, have a look at Frankie Day, or Frankie Day's channel, and watch some of his videos, and hopefully it might inspire you with what he's doing. So that's the third channel I wanted to recommend. The fourth channel is also a channel that goes just by the name of the person who runs that channel, and that channel is Gavin Booth. Now Gavin and I have talked a couple of times, and he's a really nice chap, and he comes to model making from a slightly different angle. I think his main interest in the past has been painting miniatures. So he will take kind of the 15mm military miniatures, and he'll paint them up, and these are like Napoleonic miniatures, so they generally have sort of quite bright coloured uniforms, and he'll paint them up so that they are for whichever regiment they're supposed to be. And I've done tabletop wargaming in the past, and I've seen 15mm miniatures in real life, and I think I even tried to paint a few here and there, and what I've seen from other people and what I see from Gavin, they are two entirely separate worlds. It's Gavin's ability and skill at painting is just exceptional. Frankly, it's just remarkable. And he doesn't limit himself to those kind of tiny miniatures. He also does kind of the busts that you can buy as a model maker or as a painter, and he paints those as well. And you know, he's just got this remarkable skill that you know, I'm nowhere near. It's just nowhere near. I mean, you know, I consider myself to be sort of painting by numbers in comparison. He understands. I'm trying to find a way of saying it without it sounding kind of stupid, but I think the best way I can describe it is he understands paint and how to use paint and how to make paint work on a model and on a miniature. And he has started to move into model kits as well. The last time I was watching some videos from him, he was starting to show an interest and move into actual model making itself. If I'm honest, I've not looked at his channel for probably a year or so, but that's because I haven't looked at any model making channels for a year or so. Once model making stopped here, I didn't. I don't know. I don't want to say I kind of found it difficult to watch other things, but I think the interest was there, but it's frustrating to watch other people doing what you want to do and what you can't do, and so I kind of just naturally stayed away from, I think, from every model making channel there was. So I haven't actually seen Gavin's recent videos, so I'm not quite sure what he's been up to. But I do. One of the big bonuses, I suppose, in some ways, when I actually get better, when I start to come back to model making, the big bonus for me is that there's going to be a whole raft of videos that I haven't seen yet that I can look forward to watching. But as I say, he was starting to move into model making, and I think he was working on a Tempest when I last watched what he was up to. So I've got no doubt, I've got absolutely no doubt that looking at the way he paints, I've got no doubt that his model making is going to be a really fantastic standard that leaves me behind right from the word go. So I'm looking forward to seeing those, and I definitely recommend, if you want to see a really good sort of painter, then go and look at his videos and watch what he does. And the last video I'm going to talk about is a channel called UK Scale Modeler. That is run by a chap called Ian Poulton. Ian, I think Ian kind of has lost a little bit of his interest in model making. I don't know, six or 9 months ago, I guess. He's, what model makers call that loss of mojo has happened, and he's kind of stepped away from it. I think he's painting miniatures now. The last I think I read about him, he was painting miniatures. He and I chat from time to time. We talk on Facebook from time to time. He is a really, really nice chap, and really approachable, and really open about things. And he ran a group on Facebook called the Group Build Group, which encouraged people to join in on various group builds that he would organise, and they were always really well attended. I think mainly because he was so approachable and personable. People just felt they wanted to get involved. That group build is still going on. Ian stepped back from it for the moment, and Rob from another channel, probably a channel that a lot of people have heard of, Rob's Basic Modelling, I think it's called. Rob and Ian are friends. They chat, they talk, and Rob has kindly accepted to take over and run that group build, whilst Ian just steps back and just kind of waits for that mojo to return. So it's still going. If you're interested in joining a group build, then I'd recommend that you go to, and you have a Facebook account, then have a look for the Group Build group, and they generally are running something most of the time. I think they've just finished, or just about to finish, a group build on, which is just entitled, I think, Reconnaissance. So yeah, they pick a subject every now and then. I think 3 times a year they run a group build, and anyone can join in. So yeah, so those are the 5 channels I want to talk about. Just going back to UK Scale Modeler, I've talked about the Group Build group, but I haven't actually talked about his channel. Ian has a huge number of videos of his own, and his model making is really very good indeed. And he has a nice, there's sometimes he's got some great use of humour from time to time. The one about his model of the submarine kind of stands out as just a funny video, to be honest, or a funny model, really. So yeah, go and have a look at UK Scale Modeler and look at Ian's builds and the work he's done, and hopefully again they'll inspire you to try something of your own. So yes, that is the 5 videos that or 5 YouTube channels I wanted to talk about. I think some of them probably you already know about, some of them possibly you don't, and if you don't, then go and look at those, and hopefully they will make you think about what you want to do for yourself. So I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I will make another video at some point in the future, hopefully not in a year's time, and catch up with you then again at some point. Alright, thanks very much, and goodbye. Bye.